I remember this time.
Record.
Hey! We are live.
We are live.
And...
We're always alive. Until we're dead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Which happens after work.
Mm-hmm.
I would say every afternoon, but we're no longer on the same schedule.
Yep.
I'm about halfway through my day according to the normal day, and you are at the end.
Can we not? I'm not sure why.
Says it's live. Hold up, we're
Yeah.
waiting for our producer to give us the green light.
Okay.
That was a thumb, not a green light. You know what? We'll go without the green light. Yeah. Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome to the Odd Unicorn Podcast.
Yeet.
I am Silas. Did you say yeet?
Yeet cannon, to be precise.
No.
I love the
TJ
yeet
is
cannon,
the
though.
TJ is the only one cool enough with getting away with saying yeet.
But the yeet cannon shoots to the left.
Yeah. Yeet cannons can shoot anywhere if you throw it hard enough.
But they usually shoot a bit to the left.
Not if you're left-handed.
Anyway.
I'm Silas. This is Andrew. Welcome to the Odd Unicorn Podcast. I got our producer Joy, and the dishwasher noises upstairs are provided by Ruth.
Yeah.
Today we are talking about addictions, which is a word that gets used for everything, in anything. It's like I think these batteries are kind of cool. You're addicted to batteries. Just sucking battery juice. And so I kind of want to clear that up. And like, what in the world? What is addictions? And what do you do about it?
Mm-hmm.
So first, how's your week been?
My week has been interesting.
Oh.
Yeah, so Wednesday, I got a haircut. Then after that, I got the rest of them cut.
Yeah, I need a couple of hairs cut too.
Yeah, I can do that. Actually, I can't. Never mind. Yeah, so then Thursday, got up my normal time, for work and stuff. But instead of going to work, I drove to Tennessee. Yeah, that was interesting. So we drove for 9 hours. We stopped at the Ark Encounter down in
You drove for 9
Kentucky.
hours and then stopped at the Ark Encounter?
Yeah. Well, we stopped a couple times before stopping.
I'm like, who can hold it for that long?
But no, we stopped at the Ark Encounter, walked through that. That was super cool. Then we drove another 5 hours, and there might have been a stop in there, I don't remember, and got to our hotel at like 10:30, and then went to bed. Anyway, and then we did some stuff Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Came back up on Monday. Left early Monday morning again. Stopped at the Creation Museum on the way back up. Then continued the rest of the way. Got home at 11. And then got up this morning and went to work.
Ugh. Yikes, erroneous. I know I called you guys at 11:30 because I was working and listening to the Imp and Skiz podcast.
It's great.
It's awesome, honestly.
It really is.
Yeah, they should have done it sooner. It's a diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was listening to the podcast and I wanted to tell you about it, but I was like, he's probably asleep. So I'm going to call Ruth to see if he's asleep yet. And if not, I will talk to him. Well, you guys had just gotten home.
Yeah, pretty much.
You gotten home and started unpacking a few things, and I was like, oh no, he's going to be so tired.
I haven't unpacked yet, actually.
No.
I
mean, it makes sense.
I actually have my cool Coca-Cola cups.
Yes. Filled with Not Coca-Cola?
No, not Coke,
No.
not
Oh, okay.
Sprite. No, this is Ghost energy drink, not sponsored.
Yes. But could be.
Could be, I wish.
Uh-huh.
Whatever. It's good. And maybe it'll help me stay alive through this.
Probably not, but it's worth a try.
Give me the artificial sleep
Yeah.
that we don't need or whatever.
Yes.
But yeah.
It's a new green apple flavor.
It is. It's
They
really
just came
good.
out. It's good. See, I've noticed that there's some people that really like sour things. Sour candies, sour, gummies,
Yeah.
all these things. And
there's
to
some
them,
that don't.
it really helps the flavor. And you're one of those people.
I definitely
You
am.
you championed the Warheads watermelon,
Yes.
and now you're championing the Warheads green apple.
Yes, I've always enjoyed sour and I've always enjoyed green apple. So put
Well,
the two
see,
together.
that makes sense.
It's really good.
For me, it's not that I can't handle it. I don't mind sour. It just doesn't really help the flavor much. So I prefer stuff more like Monster Gold. It's just a smooth flavor. Or the Swedish Fish is actually pretty good.
Yeah, that one's good. Yeah. But
So yeah, that's
that's my week's been interesting. Did a lot. I figured it out. It was about 30 hours of driving in 5 days, which actually isn't horrible. So Friday,
okay,
Saturday,
let me see.
Sunday, we almost didn't spend hardly any time in the car. So that was actually really nice.
Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah.
Did you have the whole week blocked off basically?
Yes and no. Yes, but it was really chill.
Nice.
So it was blocked off. We're doing we weren't at the hotel the whole time, but
Yeah.
but it was really chill because we went down for a book signing and tour type stuff, and then Sunday was just church stuff, and yeah. So it was nice.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah, and then I think one of the parts I enjoyed about it was during the driving, listening to that podcast. Man, it like we've said, it reminds me so much of us. Just
Except
30 years in the future.
30 years in the future, and I'm apathetic and you actually care. That's the only difference.
Yeah, if that was us, that would be the difference.
Other than that, man, we should just stop this now and tell them to go watch Imp and Skiz. Call it a day.
Pretty much.
Because they have one thing that we don't, and that's something I'm slowly but surely getting, which is experience.
Yes, because like I said, 30 years in the future, these guys are in their mid to late 40s.
Yup.
So they just have a ton of life experience.
Yeah. One of them has a kid going to college, and one of them, it's
technically both of his kids are college age. The one just
okay.
isn't going to college.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't get that far yet, so
Yeah. The other one, his oldest is in high school, and his youngest is 13, but he had kids later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating.
Yeah.
But to the podcast.
To our podcast.
Yes.
L'chaim.
Oh, my week went well. There's not
yes,
much to
yes,
report. New job. It's been fun. It's been weird getting used to the new schedule. It's my old schedule. But for a year and a half, I had switched to first shift, which I never really got used to.
Yeah.
My body, there would be times I'd go to bed at 10, and I couldn't fall asleep till midnight. No matter what I did. And it was very annoying. So coming back to the schedule has been weird, but also somewhat familiar, because that was my entire 18 years of my life. So
Yeah, another thing about my week real quick. So we got back at 11 last night, so I didn't go to bed till almost midnight. Got up at 5, got ready for work and go. And then, we're coming off of that weekend to now we're on 9s.
Oh.
Yeah.
You guys went on 9s?
Yeah, so...
I knew that was happening soon.
Yeah, so now, like, today is a 9-hour day. Then Wednesday and Thursday. And then Fridays are still 8s, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, so that wasn't...
You
that
know,
wasn't
I
very
always
nice.
had a problem. It's like, why take away the 1 hour every day? And instead, why not just do 4 9s and a 4? I would love that.
Yeah.
4 9s and a 4. You work 4 hours on Friday?
I want 4 10s.
I'm okay. Yeah, I would be.
We
that
thought
would work.
about doing a petition at work, but nothing ever came of that, so... Oh, well.
Sad. Very sad. Well, then you'd have to do 4 10s and a 4, though, still, for the overtime.
We would, yeah. That wouldn't be any fun.
Anywho.
Yeah.
The
Anyway.
topic. Addiction.
Addiction.
So we're only talking to, like, druggies and alcoholics, right? And people that drink caffeine.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 types of people that can be addicted. Everyone else, you're good. All right, end stream. Oh, wait, no, that's right. My bad. It applies to a lot more.
It does. And so we'll just dive right in here. I had called you, I was driving down, so it had to have been last Thursday.
Yeah, it was Thursday. Yeah.
Called you to talk a little bit about,
Yeah.
hey, what are we going to talk about next? And at first you're just like, I don't know how we're going to broach this topic.
Yeah, I'm like, how are we going to talk about addictions? Because it's so misrepresented. Whenever it's brought up, especially by Christians, it's usually either vaguely talking about everyone else, you know, vaguely talking about people that have problems with alcohol, drugs, you know, just various very obvious addictions, and being like, don't be a drug addict. All right, God loves you. It's like, you're not helping me much.
Yeah.
And then there's the other side of people that are like, everything's addictive except for what my grandparents had. None of that stuff's addictive. But anything past that, anything past the 1970s, addictive.
Yeah, and so that's how our conversation at that point started. Like, okay, what do we even talk about? But then you had a few questions.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember them. I don't.
I do remember some of them.
That's good. And so we had the questions. We chatted a little bit. Man, I almost wish we could have recorded that.
Yeah.
And just posted that as our
Because
podcast.
I was just, like I normally do, I was just going through it mentally. Like, how do I...
You're just outward processing.
Yeah,
this.
because that's how I do it, is I try to think about something from every angle, so I just start talking about it, and then I catch myself in something I said, and I go, wait a minute, what about that?
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
so that's I feel like where it started, is, so now we need to answer some questions, like you said.
Yes.
The questions I had.
Yes.
1, what is the actual dictionary definition of addiction, and where did it originate? Because if you look at, like, Urban Dictionary, they'll tell you all the ways that the media and TikTok are using it. And most of that is not true. And then the other question is, how far does it go? Does enjoying someone's company mean you're addicted to them? Does falling in love with someone mean you're addicted to them? Because if so, like, what in the world? You know, so I wanted to approach those topics. And I think, even though it is probably a boring part of our show, I think the best place to start, so that we actually have something to go off of, is a 1828 definition.
The Webster's 1820. So yeah, I'm gonna go off that one, and I have it's called the WordNet 3. I don't actually really know what it is, but hey, I have it. I'm gonna go. But the 1828 Webster's dictionary is addicted, devoted by customary practice. That's just it. You're just devoted to this
by customary practice. In other
By
words,
doing it
you've
over
been
and
doing it over and over, and so you're just accustomed to being devoted to.
Yeah.
See, that's not at all what what most people think about when they talk about addiction.
Yeah, the other one here is more of what we think of.
Yeah.
And that's compulsively or psychologically dependent on something habit forming.
Now, being psychologically dependent on something, that's... I'm trying to think of how does it... That doesn't really help our process, though, because that second definition, it's I would say probably the most understood and thought of. You know?
Yes.
But then that first definition, what was that first definition?
Devoted by customary practice.
Okay. So that's the thing, is devoted by customary practice. That's kind of like the kind of the one is super general and the other one is very mainstream.
Mm-hmm. So before we delve into this, we wanted to specify that we're wanting to approach this topic on today's episode with more of the mindset of looking into addictions in general. It's not looking at specific addictions and how they're horrible.
Well, yeah, because the biggest thing about that is everyone has different troubles.
Yes.
Everyone has different struggles. So if you attack one, you are attacking a few people.
Mm-hmm.
And validating everyone else or just confusing them. Whereas if you can actually give a better light to it, you can actually help people.
Exactly. So we want to be able to essentially broad brush addiction.
Yeah.
Without without like pinpointing any one thing, being able to help everybody.
Yeah. And the other thing is that we also want to make it relevant to Christians, because a lot of you guys watching us are Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't make sense to spend the whole time talking about meth and don't struggle with those substance abuses. And so that's one thing, is addiction isn't constrained to substance abuse. You know, alcohol, drugs, smoking, stuff like that. So if we want to really get a good grasp, we need to think bigger.
Mm-hmm. Anything more, excuse me, more broad brushing the topic rather than pinpointing, rather than little brushing.
Yes. And so one verse that comes to mind is where he's talking about, be ye not drunk with wine, but be filled with the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's showing, it says but. That's a contrast, right? And yeah, making sure I got that right.
It sounded like
And be not drunk with wine, wherein is excess, but be filled with the Holy Spirit. And that contrast, but, means before you are filled with wine.
Mm-hmm.
And you're filled spiritually with wine, not just physically, right? And so it seems that addiction, beyond anything else, seems to be able to affect us physically. Of course, you can get headaches, migraines, and nausea without certain substances. Mentally, you want it, greatly, and your mind can't stop thinking about it. You get anxious, angry, and then physically, and then spiritually. Mm. Where if you're filled with wine, you can't be filled with the Holy Spirit. So I think addictions are really unique in that the difference between an addiction and a craving, cravings are normally mental. Or addiction and needing water, that's purely physical.
Yes.
Or addictions and getting your heart set on something that isn't right, which, I'm not saying that's a good thing at all, but addictions seem to affect you on every level. And so that makes it a whole bigger topic, because you need to look at your life and say, not, is this something I really want, or is this something that is filling me on every level, and I'm dependent on every level for it. And I feel like anything that can affect you in all three ways has the ability to be addictive.
I was noticing that the Webster's definition, the devoted by customary practice is something that you're devoted to because that's something you do that's your custom. That's so, according to Webster, you're addicted to something after you start it. You're intentionally starting it, and your custom to practice it or to be devoted to whatever this is.
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing, is you start it intentionally, and then you become accustomed to it.
Which then, after some time, the way our brains form habits and such, it does lead to the other definition, compulsively or psychologically dependent on something, habit forming.
So it seems Webster's is the root, and then the other one is just talking about the result.
More or less, yeah. More or less. It's
so if we only focus on the result, compulsively or psychologically dependent on something habit forming, we're not going to help a lot of people.
No.
Now, we will help some people, because once you're addicted to something, you can stop it. It's a lot harder.
Yes.
So if we actually want to make this helpful to people, we're going to want to talk about how to not be addicted. So how do you do that then?
How to not be addicted? Well, I don't know.
Okay. I might have something to say about this, because you are much less of an addictive person than I am. For me, it's a lot easier to get addicted to things, right? And just even small things like caffeine. For a while, I don't know if I would necessarily classify it as addicted, but it was very close to energy drinks. And that was something that, I started losing sleep because I worked early shifts. And it didn't help me much, it just hurt me because my personality is so high strung that it doesn't help my energy levels very well. And then it became something where I wouldn't even think about it. And even to this day, I have to catch myself, because sometimes I'll just be, grabbing some stuff, and I'll just walk over to the energy drinks, because that's just what I do. I'm accustomed to it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of have to catch myself, because one, they're very expensive, and two, they have no health benefits.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. Which, I have no problem with energy drinks, but for myself personally, I try to drink it as little as possible, replacing it with, coffee and tea. I still drink plenty of coffee.
Yes.
But it's cheaper, and natural caffeine's better. So that's something that I've realized is, first of all, it's super easy. And the times you're most likely to get addicted are in times of weakness. Right?
Yes.
I started getting my dependency on caffeine actually during a time in my life where I was very stressed. Actually, it didn't necessarily come. Well, it was. So it was while I was working my first shift job, and I just started it. And then a couple other things in the next couple of months happened to make me fairly stressed.
Mm-hmm.
So weirdly enough, the caffeine was kind of my coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Not necessarily not like alcohol. This is why I would definitely separate caffeine from alcohol. It didn't make me forget my sorrows or go to, lose my mind. It was a way that, one, I could feel pleasure because it tasted very good, and two, I was able to calm down because caffeine has a weird effect on me that it calms me down.
Something I've noticed that is very often. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm ready to answer your question now.
Thank you.
I think so. You asked, how can we wait?
How do we prevent?
Not get addicted?
Yeah.
Yes.
How do we prevent addiction?
So something that I've noticed personally, because I can get addicted to things.
That's
actually.
true. That's true.
It's actually, yeah. There's even some random things that I still have issues with. That's anyway.
True. I guess I forgot about some stuff. So we both have that personality trait.
Yeah.
To an extent, at least.
There's a few other things too.
Yeah.
But one thing I've noticed, which I think is what causes addictions.
Yeah.
And well, actually, let me switch. I'll come back to that. What I think an addiction is. I think an addiction is something that causes your brain to. It's something that you use to take your brain off of the topic at hand, off of whatever's happening right now to something else. So, for example, if you're addicted to caffeine, well, caffeine does affect you physically, and it does affect your brain. That's just it just does.
Absolutely.
And so that caffeine is taking when you're addicted to caffeine, something's going on. Oh man, I just need something with caffeine in it. Take that sip. Now your body is dependent, your brain is dependent on whatever that thing is. And we're just using caffeine because that's relevant to both of us. Just using whatever that is to take a step back from whatever's going on right now. So
continue. I just realized something. Finish your sentence though, please.
So an addiction is when your brain uses whatever that addiction is, and it can be anything.
It can be. I've seen people that are addicted to friends. People that are addicted to like music artists or other celebrities that they have to watch them or Mm-hmm. I've seen people that are addicted to even just random stuff, like they always have to be listening to music or they're addicted. There's people that there's an entire culture, which I don't know how many people even fit into it, of people that are like addicted to Disney. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of different. That's the thing, is an addiction can be a ton of different stuff.
It can be. I think it can be literally anything. And here's why I think this. Is because, like I said, it's something that takes your brain off of the moment. It's something that allows your brain to essentially detach from the current moment and focus on whatever that other thing is. To just, the
Leaky faucet.
Yeah. Anyway, so like
Yeah.
like even a specific train of thought.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
you can be like, for example, I actually have a very hard time with this. When I'm at work, it's it's just the monotony of this. So my brain will transition into just a different train of thought, something to just kind of I don't know, kind of just help me pass the time. Is actually a specific train of thought that I created to help me pass the time. Well, I've used it so much to the point where it's actually hard for me to think any other way because of that. I get very distracted. When something is boring in the least, when something, if something doesn't keep my attention for, I don't know, it's not even very long sometimes. If it doesn't keep my attention for very long, my brain reverts back to that train of thought, that way of thinking, that...
Wow.
So, my brain is addicted to that train of thought.
It's dependent on it.
It just is. I know it is. It's something I was actually thinking about today. I'm like, I was praying about it. I'm like, God, I need to learn how to think. I do not know how to think. Like, right now, I am thinking. And I love it. I love thinking.
Yeah.
I really do. But because I have learned that, or created that different train of thought, my brain will switch over into that without me trying. Thus, I'm addicted. See, there's different stuff like that. There's more than just that. It can even be something you're doing with your hands, or it can be, something that you consume. It can be anything. Anything that, as the Webster's dictionary said, devoted by customary practice. It can literally be anything that you use. Maybe you're in one situation, and you use that, whatever it was. Literally doesn't matter what it is, but use that to help your mind transfer from that situation to whatever it was, and then you started doing it more and more and more, and now you do it unintentionally, physically do it, or mentally do it, whatever it is, to the point where you do it unintentionally. I just said that, sorry. All the time. That's just, your brain just automatically goes there.
So it seems to me that addictions are an effect.
Yes.
And they're not a cause.
Yes.
And that actually makes sense. They seem to start as a coping mechanism for something.
Yes.
And that's actually true.
Yes. And I figured it out because I've been thinking a lot about, like, I've been thinking a lot recently about, like, who am I? What are the distinctives about me? Who am I? What do I do? And I've been thinking a lot about that recently because I was realizing, I was talking with Ruth at one time, and I was realizing I don't know who I am. I don't, because I figured out why. I have always been fascinated with, like, spies and secret agents, and these are people that have to be able to build a facade, essentially, to be able to trick the enemy that they are amongst, so that they're not caught. Well, I've always been fascinated because I thought it was really cool, the action, the thrill, etc. And I've unintentionally lived the life of a spy or a secret agent. So I've been thinking about this. My life, literally, my whole life has been, I have unintentionally built a facade of who I am. So recently, me and Ruth were talking at one point, and she's like, "Okay, well, who are you? What are the distinctives about you?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know who I am. I
That's
don't
so
know what the
weird.
distinctions about me are."
Yeah.
And then also with a couple of the different things in the Imp and Skids podcast that I've been listening to, I'm like, I really need to figure this out.
Yeah.
I'm 22,
Yeah.
and I don't know who I am. I don't know. Like, at all.
Yeah.
I don't know what... I don't know what my interests are. I don't know what I love doing. Okay, I love doing this.
Yeah.
Figuring stuff out.
You found one thing.
And
That is fascinating.
And another thing that I realized with thinking about this addiction stuff is that I get bored very easily. I get bored so easily, it's insane. But because of that mental coping mechanism that I've created, no one realizes it. Because I've built that facade.
And then that also means that your attention span never gets better.
No.
Okay,
I can okay. Again, because of some book that I read when I was younger about kids that were spies or something. I don't remember well, I do remember most of it. Anyway, one of the skills that they had to learn was to be able to walk past a room, to be able to look in through the doorway of that room for no more than 3 seconds and memorize the details of that room. I've learned to do that, but you need to have a very quick, a very short attention span to be able to do that. You have to be able to focus your attention and then take your attention off and focus on something else. And
so you
have to have a very...
be able to switch your attention really quickly.
Yes, which is a very short attention span. And so I've unintentionally created that in my own life. But I desire to have longer attention spans. Especially when I am praying, actually. That is one of the hardest things for me to do, is to just stop and pray. It's almost impossible for me because I start praying and 5 minutes later, I literally say this so often to God. I'm like, sorry God, I got totally distracted. I'm like, I don't know. I probably I start talking to God. I get 3 sentences in and I'm gone. My brain's just gone on something completely different.
Huh.
Because I have a short attention span. Because I've created that in myself. And so my brain is literally addicted to a short attention span.
Interesting.
So
it's a pattern that you've set in your life.
Yes, okay, I love patterns. I do know that. I do love patterns.
Me too.
I
That's one thing we have in common.
We love different types of patterns.
We do. You prefer sequences.
Yes, there we go.
I love patterns, actual just visible patterns. You like sequences. I hate sequences.
Yes, but that's... So yeah, I have been... So since we're talking about it Thursday, and then mostly... Yes.
Quick processor for a brain. Nice.
Yes, I have a high-speed processor.
You have a high-speed processor. You just got a capacitor in there. And a capacitor, for all you tech nerds, fills up. You can take something, a slow charger, fill it all the way up, and then it shoots it all at once, and then it's gone. And then you have to fill it up again.
Yes.
You have a capacitor brain.
I do. I really do. So there, I'm learning more about myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just been really interesting. So ever since Ruth and I talked about that, which now that I think about it, it's probably a good 3 months ago at this point. Man, my life is stuck on threes. Oh, it's kind of annoying. It takes me, if Ruth asks me to make a big decision, it takes me 3 days to think about it. before my brain actually comes up with a decision for that.
Wow.
It does. I cannot make decisions
That's
on
hilarious.
the fly.
See, I'm a guy, I never stop thinking.
Yes.
I'm always thinking. While I'm talking to someone, I'm also thinking about something either related or completely unrelated.
Yes.
Which can be a problem. Also something I'm trying to work on. You need to be there in the moment. Mm-hmm. But no, for me, I'm going through situations over and over and over and over. And so when something comes to my attention, I'm like, I just got this like librarian. He's just like, book is in section E. Thinking about rhinoceroses with unicorn horns. Yep, we got that. Okay, sweet.
Yeah. So, yeah, and now see, just as much as you talked right now, I had to very specifically focus because just that much, I would have been gone.
Yeah, I know.
And
I've seen that.
Very normal.
You've been like that for probably 2 years.
Most of my life, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I've built a facade you don't know. You've never noticed.
Until recently. So then I've only noticed recently.
Yes. Yeah. And so, see, for you can make that decision right away because you're thinking. Yeah. You're always thinking. I do think about a situation over and over and over again. After it happens. So that's why when I have to make a decision on something, I have to know that I have to make a decision, and I have to be able to think about that decision after the question is asked to make the decision. So that's why Ruth knows now. I need a big decision. I need it made here. So I'm going to ask 3 days before I need the decision, and she does. She'll come to me and ask me, hey, 3 days, and I will actually unconsciously process whatever that decision is, and then 3 days later, I won't even be thinking about it. It'll just pop into my brain. My brain's like, hey, I processed this. I made a decision. Here you go. So that's one way that my brain works. So, but then talking about who am I? I've been thinking a lot about that yesterday and today. Sorry, I keep saying yesterday. No, I mean today. I've been thinking a lot about that today. So, and it's been about 3 months since we talked about that. I haven't thought about it at all since then, pretty much. A little bit here and there, but not at all. But then today, my brain is finally like, oh yeah, so I've been processing this for 3 months. Who are you? And I'm like, I don't know. But I'm actually thinking about it today. So my brain is stupid like that. But
yeah.
We kind of go off topic there.
I'm okay with that though.
Yeah. But coming back to the
Oh yeah, I did have something I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm just gonna absolutely cut that off. It's not even gonna lead into that.
That works.
But I had a thought lingering in the back of my head that you had brought up, because we were talking about coping mechanisms, right? And how, and I noticed something that, because we were talking about how both of us had at one point or currently are dependent on caffeine, right? And I had that for a long time, and I didn't even think about it. And I didn't even realize it until half or more of the stressful situation was gone. And I didn't even do it consciously. But my brain started showing me, hey, this caffeine stuff, we don't really need it anymore. And so then at that point, I was like, why am I drinking this stuff? What am I doing? And so it was like a month or two after that I just was like, you know what? I'm just gonna cut out all caffeine. And wow, what a change that made.
Yeah, I was just realizing, I don't think I've actually ever been addicted to caffeine.
Okay.
Because I think I mentioned earlier that I at least alluded to having been, but I don't think I ever have been.
Okay.
I think I've always been conscious of it. I've always been conscious of I'm drinking this with caffeine in it, but I'm not depending on it.
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
random.
For me, I depended on it for a while just to, and it wasn't during like work or something necessarily. Though, once I started becoming dependent on it, I just kind of constantly drank it.
Yeah, it was an unconscious thing that your coping mechanism.
But
in your brain.
it started with during social situations, so I could actually be focused.
Yes.
Because of I was stressed and tired for like a solid year and a half, basically.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually, no, it was like a solid year, I would say. Solid year, I was like, and it was only in the past 6 months that I've been able to just get a little bit back to normal, and that's been great.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm telling you, I'm just gonna jump ahead a little bit into the benefits of being less addicted to things, because after that, I was finally out of my rut because I made some different decisions, and I was able to start a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I was able to make more friends, and I went places, and I talked to people. And so my life kind of was put on pause for a year. Because I'd made some decisions, and instead of dealing with them,
You just coped with them.
I coped with them.
Yeah. Which, I don't know if you're ready yet, but if you are, I think we can actually lead into how to defeat addictions.
I think we can.
Because it just, like you said something, it triggered it, and I'm ready.
All right.
Here we go.
You take it away.
How to defeat addictions? Well, we've learned through the last however long we've been talking, that addiction is unconscious reliance on a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So, and that coping mechanism is created when we have to cope with some situation.
Usually a problem.
Usually a problem, yes.
Or a bad situation.
I think coping, I think it can only be applied to negativity.
Yeah.
I think we can agree on that. So addiction is created when a coping mechanism is created in a negative situation.
Yeah.
So ready, here's
the tip of the day.
Here is the solution.
Uh-huh.
And this is... Never mind, here we go. The solution is... God.
There we go.
Literally is. Because when we make... and this totally relies on being aware in negative situations.
I think that really is the first step.
That is the first step, is you have to be aware of the negative situation, but then you have to know... It really takes a fully relying on God. Frog.
Fully relying on God. Nice.
Frog. Fully relying on God. I've seen that other places.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
No, the Ives kids.
The frog
A bunch of them have the frog on it, like a bunch of little frogs, and it says fully relying on God.
I don't know if I ever read
it. Okay. Well, anyway. Yeah, but relying on God. So when those negative situations come in, when we're in that tough situation, that bad situation that we need to cope with, rather than relying on an
external,
inanimate coping mechanism,
or a relationship.
Yeah, something that, rather than relying on a okay, so there's I cannot think of the word all of a sudden.
What's the antonym?
There's not eternal.
Temporal.
Yeah. Okay. So then now switch that to power.
Oh.
Wow, I can't think. It's not like mortal.
Yeah.
Mortal. Rather than relying on a mortal coping mechanism, we need to rely on an immortal coping mechanism, and that is God. God can, when we use God as our coping mechanism, God is actually able to cope with that negative situation.
And here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that God will do that 95%, because there is some times where you'll find a coping mechanism and it actually helps you with your problems. Like you find a friend and that friend loves God and that friend helps you through a bad situation. That's great. But one thing God does that most coping mechanisms, and especially the ones that turn into addictions, specifically those, will never do for you, is help you with your problems.
Yes.
That's the thing about addictions and why they don't go away. Is because they
Yes.
don't help you with your problems.
They never clear the problem
Which
up.
means as long as that problem is in your life, you will always be yearning for a coping mechanism.
So for me, boredom.
Yeah.
That boredom, I get bored very easily,
Yeah.
especially on my job. And sadly, there's no way to fix that. Not at my current job.
No, not at your current job.
So today, I was realizing this. I'm like, God, I need a different job.
Yeah.
I need a different job.
I was thinking the same thing.
I
I'm thinking to
cannot-
myself, because I just took 1 week of doing DoorDash, and I'm like, Andrew needs a different job.
I need a different job because I cannot. This is a problem that I have to cope with
Yeah.
because I cannot. I can't. I can't naturally. This is not something that I naturally deal well with. My job.
Yeah.
And so that is my problem that I have to cope with. But so for right now, what I need to do is switch my coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Until God gives me a new job.
Yeah.
And
And if you have a healthy coping mechanism, one that's not self-destructive,
yes.
there's something to be said for a coping mechanism. Like not that they're bad, necessarily. But they should be, one, they need to be either neutral or constructive. They
Yes.
cannot be destructive.
Yes.
Drugs, alcohol, relationships, all of those, if used as coping mechanism, will end up destructive.
Now here's the interesting thing though.
Yeah.
That my specific switching my train of thought, that's been my coping mechanism that I'm addicted to.
Yeah.
It's a very neutral train of thought. It's not a negative
Yeah.
thing, but it has become negative because it now applies to pretty much any time I get bored. And so instead of getting anything done, my brain just shuts off, essentially.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. So not only does it need to be neutral or constructive, but it needs to be temporary.
Yes.
So coping mechanisms need to be just something quick that gets you through, but if it continues, like if you're in college and you have really late papers, chug a ton of caffeine. Keep yourself up all night. You'll get that sleep back in 25 years. After all your kids are graduated. So 40 years. But but then after that, the other thing is a coping mechanism can't stop you from solving the problem. Because a lot of times it does.
Yes.
Because any coping mechanism that masks the problem stops you from solving it.
Yes.
So if you're lonely, okay, and it's because you feel unworthy, okay, so you feel unworthy, so you have anxiety and social anxiety, and you become lonely. Well, then you find some toxic boyfriend that tells you you're everything until he doesn't. Being with him will kind of make you feel less lonely, but it's not solving any problems, right? And that's a big thing. Is even if it's a good guy, even if it's not toxic, if you are using a coping mechanism as a way to not solve the problem, especially if you could, then that's destructive.
And that's also specifically applying to girls with guys. You shouldn't be finding toxic boyfriends.
Yeah.
But
Switch the gender roles.
I think we get what you're saying.
I get it's 2023, but I hope our audience understands.
Yes.
No.
But yeah, so being able to the way to fix addictions is to rely on God. Because God can solve your problems.
God can solve your problems. And so that's the thing and the other thing is and the way to get there. Two things. Realize I've not been able to get anything done on my own. I'm only coming up with destructive coping mechanisms that are turning me into an addict. Okay. The other thing to realize is God can solve my problems, and oh no, I had more to that. Snap! Lost my train of thought. Wait. What did you just say? I had something to bounce off of that.
I don't know. I just said
it. Oh, you need to rely on God because He's a coping mechanism.
He can solve your
He will actually solve your problems.
Mm-hmm. That's what I said,
Yeah. And so the other thing is don't just accept a bad situation.
Yes, yeah.
That's the other thing. And I've noticed there's a lot of people that do that.
Mm-hmm.
I hear people all the time. And I think half the time it's because they don't actually want to change it. But the other half the time, they just feel like they can't. I hear people talking about how terrible their job is. Start looking for a new job.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, doesn't mean you're going to get one right away. It might take a while. It took me... How many months did it take me? So, basically, 2 weeks after Dawson left, I started looking for a job.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been a while.
Dawson left... Oh, man, that was...
I think he left before winter started.
Yeah?
So it's been almost 6 months.
Yeah, it was 6 months of looking for jobs and all this stuff, and until finally I just didn't get hired by anyone. I just did DoorDash, and so the Lord showed me something completely different. I'd been, going through Indeed and LinkedIn trying to find jobs, trying to look up stuff, and then person after person, either it was a terrible job or they didn't want me.
Mm-hmm.
And I interviewed for a good few, and I did a couple of online interviews as well. And none of them wanted me. And I was like, whatever, I'm done with this. And then, how did I even start DoorDash? Do you remember why I started it?
Probably your dad, actually.
No, what was it?
I thought...
Joy, do you remember?
We just decided to do it one day to see what it was.
I'm trying.
You probably...
I don't remember.
Dude. Maybe you saw some YouTuber doing it or something. Maybe. I don't know. Well, while you're thinking
that's so
about that,
weird. Okay. But anyway, so it just came out of the blue. And I was like, huh. And then my dad started doing it. And my dad is the type, he looks up everything about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, honestly, I should be doing that more. But I don't because I'm not very smart. And he's like, yeah, there's people that are making... He said, well, you can make over $2,000 per week in some areas. It's like...
Say what?
Yeah, so I'm able to make the same amount of money doing it. And it's just because I didn't even have that on my radar.
Yeah.
But I kind of like it.
Yeah, something that I was thinking about with coping mechanisms is it's been really, really interesting, really good. Been really enjoying listening to that podcast, the Imp and Skiz podcast. But the interesting thing about it is there's been multiple times where they've said, well, there's no manual on this, so you gotta. And I've been thinking like, dude, there actually is. It's called the Bible.
So
And
we have a little bit of a one-up on the Imp and Skiz
we
podcast.
because we have a manual.
We have the manual for
we
life.
have the manual. Like specifically the podcast they were talking about parenting. And
yes.
I think at another point they were talking about being married, and they're like, "There's no manual for that." I'm like, yes, there is actually.
So
at some point we
that's
need to figure out how to
fascinating.
contact them. But so the interesting thing is that right there, there's you can get to the point where like those guys, they've done very well in life because, well, for one, they've had a very common sense approach to life.
And they've stuck together.
Yes, and unlike a lot of people, okay, there's the phrase, you can live and learn or you can just live. Well, these guys have lived and learned. And now they're sharing what they've learned. And so that's really put them ahead in life. But still, there's still problems that like, dude, you could have solved this problem a long time ago if you would have been a Christian. It's been
because then you could have read the manual for life.
you could have, and it's just been
That
really
is
interesting
so
to
cool.
see that, to see these guys that are really, really advanced, and I've learned a lot just from listening
To their experience.
yeah, from listening to their experience, listening to their podcasts. It's been really interesting, and like I said, these guys are in their late 40s, mid to late 40s, so they've gone through a lot in life.
But there's certain things we know that they don't.
Yeah, and it's just like, bro. So that's just again confirming that we can fix those addictions. We can fix those bad coping mechanisms
Because we got the manual for life.
because we have the manual for life.
So I guess
yeah.
the best takeaway here is you don't really have to be dependent on anything because a dependency comes from a coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And a coping mechanism comes from a problem. Yeah, it comes from a problem.
Is born in problems. Yes.
And we have a manual to solve all problems.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a problem that's causing you to get addicted to something, go to the manual.
Yeah.
The manual for life.
Yeah. And there you go.
That's
That's it. There you go. Man,
See-
all of that just to come to the last like 2 minutes. We're like, oh, here's the solve. We could have done this whole podcast in like 10 minutes. Here's
Yeah,
the issue. Here's what it is. Here's the solve.
Yeah, but retention.
Yeah.
Viewer retention.
Yeah.
The entire script just says circle around the subject for 40 minutes.
It honestly did take us that long to figure it out. Sorry,
did.
guys. We're
No,
sorry.
no, I'm not sorry. I honestly do enjoy exploring.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
And it's good to get some of the deeper facets into that.
Yeah,
But I think it's
and personal experience. I think applying a little bit of personal experience into anything really helps it because otherwise people kind of like, are they just reciting facts?
yeah.
Like, how does this work in real life? And so that's something I like doing.
Yeah, but I think we're long enough into this. We can.
I
wrap
think
it
we
up.
are.
I think we can. Wrap
I
this
think
up
we
now.
can. I really do like the conclusion now.
Yeah.
With that being said, Andrew,
Silence.
what's making you happy this week? What's been making you happy?
Well, I really enjoyed the weekend, spending
Yeah?
time with Ruth. Just us two for
Yeah, that's nice.
I didn't have to leave for work. We were essentially together the entire time. It was awesome.
Nice.
It was awesome. So that's been making me happy. The podcast really, it really has. It's been
Same here.
And there's so many times many times I can just laugh. They bring a lot of laughs. It's great. I like
They're
the podcast.
master entertainers.
Well, yeah, okay. They've been content creation for the past 10, 11 years. So
Yeah.
anyway, I totally recommend it, guys. Check out the Imp and Skiz podcast.
Yep. Still, of course, be aware that they're not attacking everything from a Christian perspective.
Yes.
So
yes.
proceed with the Bible.
Yes. definitely, 100%.
Take everything they say, run it through the filter of the Bible, but
Yes.
there's still, after you run it through the filter of the Bible, there's still a lot of golden nuggets in that podcast.
There's a lot. It's amazing. It's been really good.
Yeah.
It really has been. It's okay. I gotta go into that a little bit. Okay, there's one of their episodes is on ghost stories.
Oh.
But they're not just telling random ghost stories that they've heard. They're telling ghost stories that they've lived through. It was bizarre. Don't listen to that one at night. If stuff like that freaks you out, don't listen to that one. I'm serious. Don't. But it's really interesting, and there's like. They're like, I don't believe in ghosts, but I kind of do because of all this. And I'm listening to it going, that really confirms, demonic activity. It's really interesting.
The more I learn, the more I realize, demonic activity, actually.
Yeah, totally.
I've heard so many people tell me, oh yeah, this happened in my house and this and that. Just talking about, I was like,
Yeah, but stuff like that. Stuff where, like, they're like, I don't have an answer on this. And where I'm sitting back here going, I have an answer on that. And that's really cool.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's really good. Another thing that's making me really happy right now is this podcast.
Yeah.
Right now, tonight's episode,
I've
loved it.
I've been liking it.
Yeah, and I really gotta think more about myself. I hate to put it that way. But
Gotta think about myself more.
I kind of do. I need to figure myself out, man.
Yeah.
I need to, like I was saying, I need to figure out who I am.
When you figure out who you are, we're going to turn that into a podcast episode. We're gonna milk it for the views. Not necessarily who you are as part of the views, but just how to figure yourself out. Because I'm the type of guy, I've always been open. And thankfully, I have, my family has always let me be that way. Well, most of them. The other ones I just ignore. And so I've always kind of known who I was. Like, I just always have. Mm-hmm. And it's changed.
Yeah, you change.
And I've lost myself, lost who I was, like, twice for a little bit. And then came back to it because I knew how to find myself.
I don't think I've ever figured it out. I just never have.
But yeah.
So, how about you, Sos? What's making you happy?
What has been making me happy? I'm trying to think. There's this hilarious. Okay, this is hilarious, and it's not. I'm not saying this necessarily makes me happy, but it made me laugh. I got hit on for the first time. No joke.
That's awesome.
I was at a Denny's, so that shows the class of citizen that was there. It was just some college girl. She complimented me about my jeans in a weird, she goes, she's like, yeah, I like those jeans. I'm like, yeah, Levi Strauss are good jeans. I like them sturdy. She's like, nice. And I'm like...
The way she did it, you're just like...
Oh, it's hilarious. Yeah, I was like, I honestly, I just was having the greatest time ever. I was just saying a bunch of different awkward things. She was just like... I was like...
So the whole situation made you happy.
It was hilarious. But yeah. It's just been fun. I've also, with doing DoorDash, I've been able to go to like some really cool places. Like the Delta Hotel is pretty cool looking, but there's a hotel that I just went to actually when I was on the phone with Ruth. It's an old hotel that's probably been at Green Bay for like a really long time. I walk in, it's like revolving doors and like chandeliers with like molding all around, and just it was so ornate. I felt like I was walking back in time.
Yeah.
Literally just walking back to the 1940s. It was so beautiful.
That's awesome.
I guess my job.
Yeah.
My new job. My new job has really been making me happy.
That's good. I want that. Anyway.
Like today, I'm going to have to hustle more tomorrow and Thursday and Friday and Saturday. Well, not Saturday because I have Saturday off. But today I took a day off to edit because I just and to get some things. I called someone about an interview I want to do with them. I'll tell you more about that later. It's unimportant. But I got to get some stuff done. Yes. I was able to get some stuff done in my creative life.
Good. Took you long enough.
I know. And that's gonna be a lot easier to do in the future, which I'm very excited about.
Nice.
And I've been doing stuff at the gym. Nice. Not really like weightlifting and stuff like that. Not a ton. A little bit.
Into it.
Just a little bit of overall body workout.
Yeah.
Just to keep up my physique.
Yeah.
So that's been
my physique's easy to keep up. Anyway, we need to wrap this up.
We need to wrap this up.
Going downhill, man.
We're not going downhill yet. That's Imp and Skiz. We're still in our prime.
No, but this episode is. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, really?
Whatever.
I had no clue.
Let's finish.
No.
I know.
So, thank you guys for coming to a particularly
2 Fridays from today.
Then we're done?
No, what? that's when the Smash Brothers
tournament. Yes, guys, 2 Fridays from today. I'm also gonna make an Instagram post about it because people don't.
Never mind. I'll talk to you about that afterwards.
2 Fridays from today, Smash Brothers tournament. Y'all gotta be there. All right, if you're a guy over the age of 12
or 12.
If you're 12 or older, you need to come. It is going to be great. We're going to have it here, and it's
going to be epic.
We're going to have a good time.
I also had an idea for making our podcast better.
Yeah?
Yeah, so let's talk about that afterwards.
We will talk about that. But until then, thank you guys for watching or listening.
Yes.
And thank you for enduring our rambling.
Yes.
Because...
What the? Just wait. Sit up.
What is that?
It's a bumblebee.
Oh, gross.
Anyway.
Thank you for listening to our rambling. We will sign off now. Goodbye.
Bye.